Welcome back, everybody, to our final day of With Love from Maker to Monger. Thank you for joining us again. And for those of you watching at home, thank you for joining us via YouTube or our website. Today, we have a very special guest with us, our dear, dear friend, Norbert Sieghart, coming from Germany live this morning. Norbert is our partner in German cheese. Norbert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Doug.
Oh, thanks.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being with us today.
Yes.
Um, John, are you going to take it away? You want me to
All
drive?
right, yeah, for sure. Hey, Norbert, for those folks tuning in that haven't had the opportunity to sit with you before, why don't you give us a little bit of background on who you are, where you come from, and what we do together from your perspective?
Yeah. So I'm Norbert Sieghart. I'm exporting cheese to United States since 2006, and in 2009 I make a partnership with Columbia Cheese, and since then we export cheese from Germany and Austria, not only Germany, that to United States. So we started at this time. We started with several dairies. It was Keskuhisni, it was Zuvis, but also from the beginning with Arturo Chiriboga, and probably some of you know his cheese Chiriboga Blue. So later on, I think it was in 2016, we started to bring in a new cheese. My wife created the recipe for the flours, and we find a very good cheese at this point in Austria. We call this cheese Alp Blossom. So it started in 2016, and yeah, and this year, or in 2018, we move our facility, packing facility, our partnership together with Albert Kraus. Albert Kraus is in the Allgäu. He's a cheesemaker. He has his own dairy. And then we switched the cheese of Alp Blossom to one of his cheeses. I think this was a good move because then we go from a pasteurized cheese to a thermalized cheese, which you can taste for sure, as well as a little bit softer and yeah, fits better or gives a better balance between the flours and the cheese. So, but who knows? Albert knows that Albert is sometimes a little bit crazy. So he every 2 months he has a new idea or he brings out a new cheese, and since then we also do Alpen Gouda, which is the same base cheese like Alp Blossom cheese, but 2 to 3 months older, so 5 months in total or 6 months in total, as well as Alex. So again, a 15-pound cheese, and Alex is a 25-pound cheese, so it's bigger. And Alex is washed with ashes in the brine, and also since I think 2017 available on the US market as well. And our last baby was Alpen Cheddar. So you see the logo in my background, and this was a funny story. So Tom Sheffield from Quicks was meeting us, and it was in summer 18, yes. And Albert gave him cheese to taste, and this was a hybrid of Parmigiano Reggiano and his cheese. So that means he put the grated Parmigiano Reggiano in his way during cheese making, and it was Tom was so fascinated that 1 year later, he probably quicks have had some cooking cheese left. And then he asked us, can we do that with cheddar as well? And we said, yeah, why not? And this was the beginning of Alpen cheddar. And yeah, there is 10% of cheddar in, and it gives a nice balance between 3 month to 4 month old young Alpine cheese, which is nutty, sweet, and on the other hand, you have a 10 to 12 month old cheddar, which is really amazing and in kind of getting a new taste. And this is more or less, yeah. Do I forget any cheese from Albert at the moment? I don't think so. I think what's also new is that Chiriboga is made now at Albert's Dairy. So that means Arturo and Albert, they work every week more and more together. And yeah, Doug, probably you have a nice video cut it, so you can post the link to the guys who wants to see it.
That's my next project after the virtual tasting this week. Norbert sent some awesome footage over to us, so we'll be getting some videos up onto the website shortly on a production of Out Blossom and Chiriboga Blue. A nice little behind the scenes look of the two.
Yeah, so Norbert, let's kind of start back when you and Albert met. So how did you find Albert? And just to give a little background, I think that you and I, over time, or Colombia and Quescoca over time, have pursued a lot of kind of traditional production in Austria and Germany, Bergkäse, these things that are very sort of indigenous to your area. And then occasionally you would come to us with kind of an innovator, and that's always been kind of in a way where our heart is. Obviously with cheeses like Hellerhocker, we've had a lot of good fortune to find cheesemakers who were willing to kind of innovate, do something new, take really good milk and transform it into something much more modern. How does Albert fit into that? Like, what was Alex? I think Alex was kind of the first one that we came across. Can you just give us some background on where Albert came from, his history as a cheesemaker, his dairy family, and how he got involved in your world?
Yeah. When I come to my region, to the Allgäu and Bregenzer Wald, which is next to Germany, the part of Austria. First of all, when I say we have German and Austrian cheese, that does not mean we have Northern German cheese or Southern Austrian. So that means the loop we pick up the cheese is 4 hours. So the whole loop. So it's everything in the neighborhood. So, and both sides, the Austrian as well as the German, are very traditional in dairy production. So things are going 500 years back, like in Switzerland. And when 110 years ago, they started to do Emmentaler cheese. So because they want to preserve milk, that's it. And in the 50s or so, they made a kind of Gruyere long time ago on dairies, on mountain dairies. But then they do the industrial production of a Gruyere style also in the valley, and all of them are doing the same. And Albert, now I come to Albert, he was different. When he started cheese making, he says, I should do something which is new or which is different. First of all, at this time, his a Bergkäse or Gruyere style cheese is 66 pound roundabout or 70 pound, and Albert's Alex cheese is around about 25 pound. You see, different, because he realized that the very big cheeses are not popular anymore. So he reduced the weight and the dimension, and then he bought a Fontina forms, which is concave, and nobody here used Fontina molds, and so he created the first batches of cheese, or the first cheeses, which looks completely different than all the other cheeses here in the region. And you can imagine on a German market when, I don't know, in Memmingen we have 5 or 6 market stands that only sell cheese, and they all look the same. So that means this market stand who has Albert's cheeses are looking different from the first beginning. So different size, washed in the brine of ashes and elderflower syrup, which gives a black surface. So that means, first of all, the people also here in my town are interested because of the looking. So, and then with the new dairy. So, Jonathan, did you ever have been at the old dairy, the former Hofkäserei?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes, yes. And you can probably also see how much the differences in square meters from that time to this time. I think 10 times more or 15 times more. So that means with his idea to be flexible, he brought this also to the new dairy. So that means, okay, Alex is 25 pound, but he realized again he has to make smaller cheeses because people wants to have 15-pound cheese, 16-pound cheese. When it doesn't matter if it's in the States or here, buying a cheese is an investment. So that means smaller cheeses are better to sell, and when you need a new one, you order more. So, but the big cheese to sell, it's sometimes difficult.
How has the local population reacted? So, I mean, obviously they notice it in the market stand. Alex is full fat also, correct?
Yeah.
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 Which is a divergence. So most of the cheeses there are still skimmed, you know, they're very kind of traditional production. So how do they do as far as the kind of the more traditional population? Are they into it, like when they taste it? It's got to be unusual.
Yeah. So at the former dairy, he make also Bergkäse, but also full fat, but with different cultures. So he served in the beginning. He served the cheese to the village. You remember, Jonathan? He also make a tiny Emmentaler.
Yeah.
So that means he wants his shop or his village shop was 100% for bringing traditional cheeses as well. But now he is away from that. So he still have the Rams cheese, for example. Local people love it in spring. So Rams is absolutely a must on the table. And he still do the traditional cheeses, but the cheeses like the Emmentaler or Bergkäse for his shop, he buys from other dairies. So
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and when I first did visit the Hofkäserei, that was in small part to see Alex production, which was very, very small at the time, and all of the other production. We were able to see the flowering of the Alpblossom applied at Albert's Dairy on a cheese that we were pulling in from Austria, kind of how we started that project years ago. Once he had moved into the new dairy, this opportunity came up in order to move the production of the base cheese to Albert's Dairy. So there would be just complete integration of the production of that cheese on site, which was, beneficial in many, many ways. How has it affected the Alpblossom from your perspective, moving it to a full fat, to a thermalized instead of pasteurized cheese? From our perspective, we found it just went through the roof when that happened. It was one of those things where the texture got to be so full, just really creamy and beautiful, and really kind of picked up the scent of the flowers a little more. Can you just take us through a little bit of how that process happens? how old the cheese is when it gets covered in flowers, what's in that blend, and then kind of where it goes from there?
Yeah. So first of all, this cheese now is in my fridge. So that means I enjoy it as well. So, and this, I think this says a lot. So yeah, Huban compared to the former cheese, Huban was, or Alba cheese is softer. That's right. Huban was a little bit more firm, not very much, but a little bit pasteurized. And I think this is, for me, the main differences. Huban was also older, so we decided at this point to age it up to 4 to 5 months, sometimes to 6, because this cheese, when he was younger, he reacts to the flour 0. So that means you have to have Huban to age longer to get a good balance between the flour taste and the cheese taste. So Albert cheese, you can go with them earlier. So at the moment, it's between 3 and 4 months. So you see, so the cheese is 1 to 2 months younger than we used the Huban cheese in the past. And also from you guys in the States, I get only positive reactions about that. So the same from Frederick van Tricht from Belgium. So that means we are sure we have done the right thing, and yeah, come to the mix. So the mix is unchanged. The mix is from Austria, a company called Sonnentor. There are organic companies, so we do organic blossom on a non-organic cheese, but we decided to buy from this company because the quality is the best, and our aim is to have the most beautiful flower cheese on the world. So that means not a little bit of blossom to make it green or whatever. So it has to shine out, and it has to cover the whole cheese and not only the top or the bottom or whatever. And yeah, it's marigold, it's roses, it's cornflower, blue and red, and roses. Yes, roses we have had, and cornflower and marigold, they taste nothing. So if you eat it, the flower blossom, you roses get a little bit, and lavender. So we put a little bit lavender also in the mix. Lavender has a certain flavor as well. But we, before we dress it up, we put a little spice on the cheese as well. It's also from the Sonnentor company, which has garlic, a little bit garlic, onions, and parsley. So that means this mix of this Sonnentor product and blossom make a specific taste, and this is created by my wife Manuela. So that means this was from the beginning. So we don't buy the mix ready to use. We every time new.
Yep.
So, and this is good, by the way, we can play a little bit. So when, for example, the marigold is not yellow, sometimes it's a little bit more orange, we can use a little bit less than we expect to do. So that means, and this is what my blossom ladies do very, very well. So they decided sometimes do a little bit, change a little bit the colors of the color of the single blossom. So it's not a 100% mix, which is every time the same. So
right. Well, and you're also pointing out that something that's, I think, hard to fathom for some people, because Al Blossom has become somewhat ubiquitous in specialty cheese cases here in the U.S. And it's hard to explain to people that every cheese is covered by hand, that this is still a hand-done process. we have spoken in the past. I've seen more industrial versions of this that can be done. This can be done on a truly industrial scale. It can be done with, let's call it technology. Let's not be, rude about it. And it just doesn't have that same effect. Having that just very eye-popping look, we've found only can be done by hand.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're able to have a team come in and do it on that scale, and we're talking about hundreds of wheels on some orders, in fourth quarter, and during some periods of last year, we were really pulling in a large amount of cheese. How many people are in the room hand covering on those days?
So I think the maximum is around about the maximum of 6 hours making is around about 120 to 140 wheels with 5 people.
Yeah.
So that means then we open 2 lines of production. 2 lines of production.
It's also funny to think about Albert's old dairy. 5 people couldn't fit in his old dairy.
No. And with 2 vacuum pack machines. So then we can do 120 to 140.
Right. So and also to be clear, so the cheese is completely done with its aging when it's covered in flours.
Yes.
And then you vacuum pack in order to keep those flours really fresh, kind of like help them like really adhere and freshness. We've been so impressed at how little that vacuum pack compacts the cheese itself. It's really like you do a really exceptional job there on something that can be tricky. So
yeah, it's a kind of tricky because you don't have to full vacuum pack it, so not like shrinking it completely. So this is you have to, on one hand, because you prevent the cheese from getting mold or the colors lose the color. But it's tricky to vacuum pack it, and this is why we are not vacuum pack it and then immediately put it in the box. We always let it sit for minimum a day to see if the sealing keeps.
Yeah.
And if it not keeps, we open it and we vacuum pack it again with a new bag.
Not easy.
Nope.
So when the cheese switched over to Albert's Dairy, one of the things that came up was, wow, this is a really good cheese. Just like the cheese itself without the flours. I think you and I share the perspective of always being a little iffy about the flours. Like I appreciate the way that it's really helped kind of open people's eyes. It looks great in the case and all of that. But I think that what has been interesting is how much the base cheese has improved. So can we talk a little bit about kind of Alpengouda as a product and where the name came from and kind of what is this?
Yeah.
What do you
So also the making of his base cheeses. So when Doug put the link on the Maker to Mongers page, you can see also the bigger press with the 15-pound, who make the 50-pound wheels. And when he fills the curd in that molds, cheese is a little more, curds, some molds get a little bit more. So in other words, some of them are higher. And when a cheese is too high, it don't look so nice when you cover it with flour. So that means the cheeses are too high during production. We put away from the rack. We put it in a different and age it longer. So and the name Gouda comes from, probably it looks a little bit more like a Gouda, so it's higher. Yeah. And the Germans love Gouda. So when you go to a supermarket, you see really a lot of Gouda. Sometimes not the best quality, but Gouda is a well-known name here in Germany for a kind of good cheese. So, and Albert thought about why we should not name my cheese Alpengouda, because a higher cheese looks a little bit more similar, getting a firm cheese get firmer inside, and why we should not call it Alpine Gouda. So to get awareness back from the customer, and and then it was
I mean,
born.
like this has been kind of an ongoing discussion over the last couple of days because we've been encountering cheeses that really are unique. You know, it's hard to it's Alpen Gouda is not a it's not a Gruyere, you know, it's not Gruyere, it's not Appenzeller, it's not Bergkäse, like it's its own entity, but people still want to have context. So if you call a cheese, for instance, Lisa, when people walk into the store, they, well, what is a Lisa cheese? So I really appreciated it. And it's, to me, it's just such an eatable cheese. You know, it just kind of embodies texturally and flavor-wise everything that I love about really high quality milk being made into that kind of like Alper, like mountain style cheese. It just kind of captures that really well. Is the milk is the milk still majority family milk for Albert's Dairy? Is it still
100%, still 100%, but you see the numbers, what you are ordering, so you see this is not enough. So that means in the past he have had the possibilities to order from another two dairies farms, sorry, from another two farms, but this is standard now. So that means he has the three supplier, which means not more than 5 kilometers far from his dairy. But I think when we talk about milk, so it's interesting model Albert do. So he sometimes produce only cheese when a farmer brings the milk. He never owns the cheese. So he make the cheese for the farmer, and the farmer later can pick it up again, and Albert get kind of revenue out of it. So, and this happened with a company. It's called Demeter, Demeter Biobauern, Demeter Farmers, which is they are around about 30 minutes or 45 minutes far from Albert. So they bring he don't pick it up, they bring every week around about 4,000 liter of milk. And Albert make this cheese, it's called Hornkäse. Why it's called horn cheese? Because the Demeter farmers, so they are not allowed to cut the horns. So this is, if you look on the milk price, so conventional milk compared to organic milk, it's around about 20% more expensive, but Demeter milk, another. So we have I want to say 3 different level of organic here in Germany. One is the basic organic, which is marketed by the supermarkets as well. So then we have Bioland, which is a kind of higher level organic, which, for example, Evelyn with the Adelacker was Bioland certificated. And then you have Demeter. And Demeter is biodynamic organic. So, for example, the cows and the cattle are coming together for a certain moments. So the cattle can still drink milk from the mom. It's completely different. And as well, the cows, they are not allowed to cut the horns, and there are a lot of story out if it influences the cheese, if it influences the milk of the cow, if you cut the horns or not. So I'm not a farmer, I'm out of the discussion, but I can see that there probably is a quality differences. And
there's a different flavor to the Hornkäse than we typically see in Albert's cheese. Is that a matter of cultures? Is that a matter of the milk itself?
Milk itself.
Yeah. there's just like there's a really pleasant spice to it. It reminds me more of, you know, for to my palate, it reminds me more of like Appenzeller a little bit, with that kind of like spice to it. How old is the Hornkäse that you've sent for us to try?
Yeah, 6 months.
Yep.
6 months, and we also wash the cheese like the Alex in that specific brine. So yeah, and give him a different look and feel.
Yep.
As well. So it's for sure it's the same cheese maker, it's the same facility, but the ingredients are the highest standard you can get. Though you cannot top it. It's not possible.
No, and it's a really like just beautiful cheese. I've been enjoying it. So thank you. So to get back to, like, just real quick, if we could touch back on the Alpencheddar. So Alpencheddar, you kind of got into a little bit of where that came from. We went through a few different kind of test batches. It seems really dialed into me. I know Doug and I have both just been like really grooving on it. And the people that have had a chance to taste it so far, it's just like every single one, you know, and when you bring something that's unusual to market, you know, there's a tendency for people to at least give it a try. Well, what is this project? This is strange. Obviously, you also have a beautiful logo, but you know, it's an unusual recipe. It's an unusual process. And then it's being backed up by what is actually like a really interesting kind of multi-dimensional flavor. How did you settle on the 10% of Quicks? And then how does this actually, like, if you can just kind of take us through how it functionally works. So you're putting shredded cheese into the vat before it drains. Is that essentially how it works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So before training, like the same moment, like we put in, or Alba puts in the ramps or herbs or chili or all the other ingredients, or like the summer dream ingredients. So before training, that's right. So we first of all buy from England, which is not easy anymore, but we buy.
Right, I didn't even think about that.
We buy graded cheddar from the farm, from the Quicks farm. We don't grade it by ourselves. So they are really professional. So we put the first bags to the lab, so to see, it comes from England, let's see what's in. So they really said this is 100% dry. The bags are perfect, the vacuum is perfect. So this is a high quality of graded cheese we get, really. And it's 10 to 12 months. And then during the cheese making process, it comes in the vat before training. And the tricky thing is it's a hybrid again. So you bring fat to fat. So and this during the making. So they changed the pressing completely. So normally when the whey goes out, they do it in the press, and then you start your normal pressing process. So but this cheese with the two different fat content are getting scratches on the outside. So what they are doing now is flipping the cheese during the pressing much more often. So in other words, the base cheese could be done by one person. So the dairy is set it up that one person can make one batch, but not for Alpencheddar. You have to have minimum 2 people working on that to flip the cheese every time. Though the other person works normally, and the other one flip and flip and flip. So it's much more manual work than all the other base cheese production. And the funny thing is, normally when you create this is a new cheese category. It,
Right.
it doesn't happen before. So normally you make batches and batches and batches you cannot sell, or you have to destroy, or it doesn't taste, or whatever. So we trashed no single cheese. So from the beginning, it was yummy, it was good, but with the outside, with the rind, we have had some. I don't want to say problems, but Albert have made a learning curve. So, but now I want to say since November they are perfect. So also,
It was kind of shocking how fast it got dialed in. You know,
mhm,
I think that we first talked about it September of
yeah,
right in
yes,
California is kind of where I was first kind of made aware of it with you and Tom. And then, you know, we tasted sort of batches throughout 2020. And just to watch you just narrowed it in really quickly and dialed in that cheese for something so unusual. The flipping thing is interesting to me. So it did have kind of a more open texture, if I remember
mhm,
right, from the test
yeah.
batches. But now it's much more like compact and like dense. Yeah.
Yeah, but still softer than the other
Oh,
one.
no. Yeah, I don't mean dense like hard, but it's just got it's a little more,
Yes,
yeah, kind of manageable pace too.
yeah.
And it's
So
giving a better rind texture from the flipping. Just you're just kind of
mhm,
like, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and again, it's for me it's fascinating to see how a cheesemaker, probably like Albert, go on problems or go on processes like that to make the parameters right to make it, because he has also to see on the costs. So when four people running around one cheese, so then it's not efficient enough to make it, or probably too expensive or whatever. But they are really good cheesemaker in seeing a problem, solving it, with little steps, go further, go further, to make something unusual, something really good. Yeah.
So speaking of cheesemakers, one of the kind of fun little side things that's happened in the last couple of years is Arturo Chiriboga coming over to Albert's Dairy.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'll admit to you that Chiriboga Blue for Columbia cheese has always been steady seller. One of we didn't necessarily push on it because there wasn't capacity. So
Yeah.
just to give people an idea, Arturo's Old Dairy, the Chiriboga was the outlier, and it's a blue cheese, and it's in a world of non-blue cheeses. So it had to be kind of sectioned off. It was kind of, you know, hidden in its own little room and had to be covered very carefully. And it was just, it was more of a problem really than anything. The more we sold, the bigger the problem got for Arturo and for the owners of Obre Mule. So can you tell us like how they got in touch? And then, you know, one of the things that I think I'm emphasizing in 2021 is that Chiriboga is now really like it's very available. You're talking about 3 farms of milk that can come into the dairy, and just the flexibility that Albert has in production in managing his production. Chiriboga is now, I mean, I'm not going to say it's an unlimited cheese, but with planning, we can now make a fair amount of it. Have you noticed any changes in the cheese since it moved over to Albert's Dairy?
First of all, no, because Arturo took all the tools of making, that's the same tools, the same molds, the same cultures, the same roquefort, the same needle tool. So that means the only difference is the place and probably the milk from a different farm. But I think the two things, the milk and the farm, the milk and the dairy, it's not too complicated to make the same cheese again. So I want to tell you why Arturo, or yeah, this was not his decision to move to Albert. It was also not my decision. It was a decision of all of us. So because you say it right, when Colombia started to sell Arturo's cheese, the sales goes up, it goes up, goes up. And every month I come back to Arturo, we need 20 wheels more, we need 50 wheels more, we need whatever more. And uh, at this dairy, the place is limited, and Arturo don't only made this cheese. He made the goat cheese, he made the mozzarella, he made the Senna case, and so on and so on. And the blue malt coming more and more in influences more and more the other cheeses. So he shows me Senna case with blue malt inside. So he really have had problems, especially in summer. So in winter was always was okay. Then he, but summer and I want to say August, July to August, it was a nightmare. And he thought about to stop making it or only seasonal in winter. That's it. So and then my deal with Albert comes up. So that means my deal means I met, by the way, Albert through a friend of mine, and it's also a cheesemaker. And this friend of mine, he gives me Krista. This cheese probably never will exist, but this is a 14-month-old Alex. And then I decided I have to meet this cheesemaker. This was around about 2014 or 15, and then we come along, and then everything develops, and then he says, "Okay, I want to build this dairy." Arturo have had these problems, and then I made a big meeting together with the owner of Oberemühle. So that means Frau Mrs. Ramos and Arturo and Albert, and then we decided to move the production to Albert's Dairy. So you can still buy Chiriboga Blue at the Oberemühle, but it's not made there anymore. And with the new dairy and the size of it and the different rooms, so we don't have problem there to make blue cheese as well as the other cheeses. So it's completely a different topic than
right.
it
Well,
was.
and also, you know, and I know that there had been FDA had done it. We talked a little bit about FDA inspections yesterday with Guy, and one of the things that we were discussing that I think comes up is we were also, as we move into kind of the modern era, Albert's Dairy is incredibly modern, incredibly clean, you know, the most inspectable dairy you could ask for. And as we see more and more people kind of ask for, you know, the people who are watching now, you know, they need these higher level audits. They need this kind of, you know, these third-party audits and all of that. So for us also, although Oberemühle was, you know, a very clean, tidy,
and
that FDA visited and loved.
And it was certificated by the inspector, by the FDA. So FDA was there.
I know. I did really appreciate your story when the inspection happened. That did the inspector have something like 2 or 3 days blocked out to come to this, and the dairy is the size of his kitchen. You know, he must just be like, what am I going to do for 3 days?
Yes.
I guess I'll go skiing.
Yes.
But I think that it brings up a good point that, like, as we're introducing these new cheeses into the marketplace, it's really heartening that they're made in this like very visitable, very modern dairy, with all of the convenience and all of this high standards that I think everybody's expecting these days. So it's small scale production, but in a space that lends itself to just kind of international sales, which is great for us.
Yep.
We're also, and I don't want to give short shrift, because I think that the cheese Doug and I have been eating the most of is Fruity Franzel. Mm-hmm. I think we're both just like a little enamored with this. So This came up in Bra 2 years ago. You, if for those of you that don't know Norbert, there's always something new. There's always something, interesting going on. So you show up with these Wiggensbach cheeses. So can you tell us, like, what is Wiggensbach? How does it kind of fit into your plans? And can you tell us just about kind of their production, particularly Fruity Franzel?
Yeah. So I think with Evelyn, you remember, Jonathan, this was an organic cheese maker. So I have had a gap. So I always want to have one organic cheese maker because we are, as a company, organic certificated, and so it makes sense to have one supplier which is organic. And with Wiggensbach, first of all, it's not far away where I grew up, so I know this dairy since I was a child, since I was a baby. So it was, from the beginning, it was a cooperative. And when I was young, it was not an organic cooperative, but a normal cooperative. And with this dairy, I was at a tour, a normal tour, more or less a normal tourist tour, and they guided us. I saw the cellar. The cellar is amazing. This is old brickstone, very less technology in the cellar. So they let the stones breathing. They look on traditional making technology, and it was so much impressing me. It was so clever what they are doing, and that I asked, I want to add some of your cheeses on my list. So for sure, again, they have mountain cheese, Bergkäse. For sure, they have a similar cheese like Albert does. So I was more looking for something different again, because this is sometimes a problem of an exporter and probably also a problem of an importer. Yes. You have enough Bergkäse, you have enough of this semi-soft, semi-hard cheese. So that means sometimes there is no room anymore, or it has to be outstanding. Otherwise, there is no place on the list. So, and after Bra, the list was more or less created by at this time, after Bra, Anyada guys were with me, as well as Glenn was with me and Lydia was with me. And then we visited the dairy. And for me, it was a talk to you, US mongers, the dairy, and myself to find the 3 right cheeses to choose. So they have 20 again or 30 again on the list, but this was a combination of Anyada, Glenn, me, and the CEO of the dairy to pick these 3 cheeses. This is the Fruity Franzle, which the original name, or the German name, is Fruchtiges Franzle, which is...
I love that. That's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll look great on our list.
Yeah, Doug is learning Germany. So but the translation is Fruity Franzle. So I think it's very similar. When I say it in German, Fruchtiges Franzle, you see there is a similarity. So Fruity Franzle, Fruchtiges Franzle. So it's a nice game, probably. Yeah, and it's washed with cider at the outside. Yeah. And we have the Good Mute, which is a square cheese as well. So with the same herbs, topped with the same herbs we use for Heart Blossom, also from the Sonnentor company. And the Red Casanova, which is a triple fat cheese as well. But yeah, for me, my favorite is Fruity Franzle as well. Exactly.
Yeah, and we even have taken a step to stock a small amount of it. I mean, I think that there's certain things that come our way, and 2020 was such a difficult time to introduce new things. You know, we sort of, everything kind of got put on hold, of course. So it's just exciting to have something new that people can just kind of pick up and try. So yeah, we're very excited for it. What's the scale of the dairy? Like, are they like, is it a cooperative of organic milk producers? Is that kind of the situation?
So they have around about 8,000 to 9,000 liter a day, which is 1/3 bigger than Albert is. So they're a little bit bigger. 16 farmers, organic farmers in the neighborhood. None is more far away than 30 kilometers. So it's also in the neighborhood. The cheese making is they have different presses for the squares as well as rounds, to fats. So they are also a showcase dairy. So when you buy your cheese, you can, there's a window you can watch and see the cheese making, which is really amazing. But the most amazing is their cellar. This old brickstone thing is amazing. They are not Demeter organic. They are Bioland organic. So that means the second best. But they act like Demeter organic. So, for example, they also let the cattle and cows together. And for me and Manuela, it's so important that the animal care is done, and will be more important probably as older you are getting. So less meat eating, or you look definitely on your surrounding, and when you see that the cattle are not slaughtered after are born, so they keep it minimum for 3 months, and this is seldom. So there are a lot of differences they do than the other one, and this is also inspires us to promote their cheese. So, and again, they have, so for us it's also easy to do small steps. So for Albert is my job is 1/3, minimum 1/3 of his whole production. So that means when I stop selling cheese, he probably not have a problem, but it's different than the Wittgenbach dairy. And I think I like it at the beginning, especially with 2020, with Corona, with the very difficult situation to launch a new cheese, to show a new cheese, that they don't care so much at the beginning. They have time, we have time, and so it's a slowly introduction of a very, very good cheese, well done, with a dairy who do the right things. And by the way, Albert and the CEO of this dairy are also very well known and good friends.
Oh, good. We like to keep it in the family.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I mean, it's such a nice range of cheeses. As usual, when you find something new, it really belongs in the set. So I just thank you. It's good to see you.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Talk to you. Bye.
For joining us and sharing all the cheeses with us.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.